a narrow waterway, just 21 miles across at its narrowest point, yet it carries 1/5 of the world's oil supply. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Every day, tankers from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE and Kuwait navigate its waters. A single miscalculation here could disrupt the global economy. And today, the strait is at the center of one of the most tense and persistent geopolitical conflicts in the world. The United States deploys warships to secure passage. Iran develops missiles, fast attack boats, and anti-ship weapons. Tensions flare, oil prices spike, and the world watches, wondering who really controls the gateway to the world's energy supply. To understand why the Strait of Hormuz is so critical, and why the US and Iran keep clashing over it, we have to go back decades, long before modern military standoffs or sanctions. Because this conflict is not just about geography. It is about power, influence, and survival. The strategic importance of the Strait of Hormuz has been recognized for centuries. It connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. A maritime choke point, its geography is unavoidable. Ships must pass through it to reach global markets. In the 20th century, the discovery of massive oil reserves across the Persian Gulf transformed the strait from a regional passage into a global lifeline. By the 1970s, nearly half of the world's seaborne oil exports passed through Hormuz. Control of this narrow channel meant influence over the flow of energy to Europe, Asia, and beyond. But geography alone does not explain the conflicts that have unfolded here. Politics, ideology, and history are just as critical. The modern struggle over the Strait of Hormuz begins with the rise of Iran as a regional power under the Shah. Following the 1953 CIA-backed coup that restored Mohammad Reza Pahlavi to power, Iran became a close ally of the United States. American advisors trained Iranian military forces. Advanced weapons systems flowed into the country. The Shah envisioned Iran as a dominant naval force in the Persian Gulf. But his vision relied heavily on American support. This partnership ensured freedom of navigation through the Gulf, but it also created dependency, and dependency can become vulnerability. The 1979 Iranian Revolution transformed the region. The Shah was overthrown. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini established an Islamic Republic. Anti-American sentiment became a cornerstone of Iranian foreign policy. The 1979 U.S. Embassy hostage crisis sealed the rupture. From this point forward, Tehran viewed U.S. presence in the Persian Gulf as a threat, and the Strait of Hormuz became a symbol of potential leverage. If Iran could control or threaten the strait, it could assert regional power and influence global oil markets. The United States, in turn, increased its military presence to ensure free passage. This marked the beginning of a strategic deadlock. The Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s escalated the stakes even further. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, invaded Iran in 1980. The war quickly engulfed the Gulf region. Oil infrastructure became a target. Tankers were attacked in what became known as the Tanker War. Both Iran and Iraq targeted shipping in the Gulf. The United States intervened to protect commercial vessels. American naval forces escorted tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. This period revealed a critical truth. Control of the strait was not just a regional issue. It was a global concern. The flow of oil, the stability of energy markets, and international trade were all directly at risk. After the war, Iran invested heavily in asymmetric military strategies designed to leverage the strait's geography. Fast attack boats, anti-ship missiles, and mine-laying capabilities became central to its naval doctrine. The logic was clear. Iran could not match the United States in conventional naval power, but it could threaten critical maritime choke points. The Strait of Hormuz, only 21 miles wide at its narrowest, was perfect for this approach. For the U.S., the challenge became ensuring freedom of navigation without triggering full-scale war. It was a delicate balance that has defined the Gulf for decades. The early 2000s introduced a new dimension: U.S. military intervention in Iraq. American forces occupied southern Iraq, adjacent to the strait. Iran responded by expanding its influence over Iraqi militias and proxy forces. The strait became a theater of indirect confrontation. Iran could threaten shipping through proxy actions, while the U.S. relied on superior naval forces to maintain control. Tensions simmered. Skirmishes between Iranian vessels and U.S. patrol ships became increasingly frequent. Each incident tested the fragile equilibrium. By 2011, the Arab Spring reshaped the region. Instability in Yemen, Bahrain, and Syria provided Iran opportunities to expand influence. The U.S. continued a dual approach: deterrence and diplomacy. Sanctions targeted Iran's economy and its ability to project power. But Iran's strategy emphasized resilience, asymmetric capabilities, and the ability to disrupt oil traffic in the strait if provoked. The world began to understand that the Strait of Hormuz was not just a pipeline corridor. It was a strategic lever. Whoever threatened it could impose global consequences. In 2019, tensions escalated sharply. Iran attacked oil tankers in the Gulf. The U.S. responded with increased naval deployments and economic sanctions. The world watched as oil prices spiked. Markets reacted to the threat of a blockade. Military analysts warned of the catastrophic effects of a prolonged closure. The strait's importance was undeniable. Nearly 20% of the world's oil passes through this narrow waterway, and a confrontation here would reverberate globally. The Strait of Hormuz today remains a flashpoint. Iran continues developing ballistic missiles, mines, and fast-attack naval craft. The United States maintains a strong naval presence, supported by allies from Europe and Asia. Every year incidents occur: shadow encounters, seizure of vessels, and threats of closure. Each event carries economic and strategic consequences, and each one highlights a fundamental truth. The Strait is more than a channel. It is a geopolitical linchpin. Control, or even the credible threat of control, gives Iran leverage. Ensuring freedom of navigation has become a central goal of U.S. strategy. The potential for escalation remains ever present. The struggle over the Strait of Hormuz is a story of geography meeting global power politics. It is shaped by decades of historical decisions: the 1953 coup, the 1979 revolution, the Iran-Iraq War, and U.S. interventions in the Gulf. It is defined by military strategy, regional influence, and economic interests. And it is a conflict that unfolds not through formal declarations of war, but through a constant chess game of deterrence, demonstration, and negotiation. The strait is narrow, the stakes are enormous, and history shows that even small miscalculations here can have global consequences, and that is why the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the US-Iran rivalry. A narrow channel, a global lifeline, and a symbol of strategic leverage. The conflict is not new. It is the result of decades of decisions, military strategies, and political ideologies. Every incident, every deployment, every threat traces back to a history of mistrust and competition. Today, the world depends on this narrow passage, and the tension there shows no signs of disappearing. If this video helped you understand one of the most critical and complex choke points in modern geopolitics, consider subscribing for more in-depth explanations of global conflicts, strategic rivalries, and the forces that shape our world.